everybody. Karen Roby and Tiernan Ray here for ZDNet. Tiernan, thanks for being with me today. This headline that you put together and this story really caught my eye. I'm going to read the headline for everybody. People's notions about AI are terrible. An MIT study asks whether they can be helped. So this is really interesting, and I know the story. Before we get into MIT and the involvement there with this study, let's go back year or two, couple of years when this first AI painting was sold. Talk about that, and then we'll build up from there.
This is an incredible story of the age that's sort of representative of AI. In October 2018, Christie's, the auction house, sold at auction for $432,000 a painting called Edmond de Bellamy. And you can sort of see a reproduction here. Looks kind of like a messy Rembrandt. That's because it comes from a computer algorithm that was trained on lots of old master paintings. Now, the issue here is that the 432,000 did not go to any of the various technologists who built the software to do this. It was split by a collective, an art collective in Paris called Obvious and Christie's. And so what Obvious did was basically come in at the end, at the 11th hour, and take the algorithm that had been developed as a result of various technology developments. And basically, it's like they went into your home and press print on the printer after you'd made something on your computer. So they made off with the proceeds. And the most sort of serious concern here societally is that there was a lot of marketing hyperbole around this Christie's auction that said an AI has created an artwork. There was a lot of what's called anthropomorphization, inferring agency on the program that did this, and thereby obfuscating all of the technological artifacts, the product over years that came from these individual human programmers who had made this possible.
And so just hearing that, just that little bit of information, it sounds like, wait, that's not fair. Somebody got ripped off here. So a couple years later, MIT decides to do a study on this and dives into this a little bit more. What'd you find?
We spoke with Ziv Epstein, who is a PhD candidate in the MIT Media Lab.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a background in STEM. He's a mathematician by training, and he also has an interest in art. And lots of people were kind of incensed by this Christie's auction, including Ziv Epstein. But he went further. He did a study. He asked several hundred volunteers to read some passages that were kind of loosely based on this scenario, and then to rate what they think is the credit, including monetary gain, that should be given to the various parties, including people way back in the chain who had worked on the software. And he read a couple of different versions to different people. So there's a sort of different groups here. They were split. And what he found is he could manipulate people's views with the language he used about the AI. So for example, in one version, he said that Alice is a human artist who works with a program called ImageBrush, which sort of sounds like Photoshop. In another version, he said Alice is a human artist who works with an AI called Sara, capital S-A-R-A, also to create an artwork. And in each case, he said, so how much money would you give to like the person who created ImageBrush, the software that Sara uses, or that Alice uses to create the work? Or how much money would you give to the technologist, the programmer who created Sara, the AI? And it turns out when more kind of agency is attributed by naming it Sara, by making it seem like an AI, an entity, fewer people say you should give money to the technologist who built this algorithm versus if you call it ImageBrush. And so he could manipulate through the description of the circumstances what people thought was the agency, the autonomy, and the sort of anthropomorphic qualities of the software versus it just being some kind of software program like Photoshop.
That's really interesting. And the problem is, Tiernan, of course, as AI is used more often, and we're going to see so many more applications down the road. I mean, right? This will become an even bigger issue.
Yeah. It's a really big issue, and the whole issue of obfuscating what goes on to create programs and what they are is a colossal issue. And what was really great was Ziv Epstein said to us when ZDNet interviewed him by phone that the thing that you want to do is you can't really give everyone in the land an AI college course per se. But what you can try to do to start to steer people in the right direction is not merely say things like, well, it doesn't have agency, but get people to work with programs, software programs, AI programs, and see that they can use it as a tool. And when they do that, his point is they'll have an intuitive understanding that it's a tool. It is not a glowing brain in a vat that magically comes up with things. It is not a Terminator robot. It is a tool like this sort of mythical image brush in his example, like Photoshop. You get to work with it and you say, oh, I start to understand this is a thing I manipulate to create stuff. This is a process. And then it's not so abstract and then it's more concrete. And then you may spend less time sort of being wowed by marketing hyperbole that seeks to obfuscate what goes on.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I'm sure down the road, this is something we're going to be talking about, further, hearing about more in one form or another, Tiernan. Well, that full article, of course, with a really interesting headline up on ZDNet. We hope you will check it out, and we appreciate you watching.